Okay, well, thank you for everyone for coming. This is going to be basically a presentation covering my project, which was a digital imaging investigation into prostate cancer with the use of NKX3.
Well done, Moina.
It's okay. You can see the back eyes.
There we go. So basically, how did I get from basically having the idea of doing an MSc to producing my project in the right hand side? So what I'm going to be covering is an introduction. So what is it? So I'm going to be covering what is prostate cancer, what is NKX 3.1, and then also what is digital imaging. After that, I'm going to be covering the aims of the project. So I covered 5 aims in the project, and I'll be discussing what I tested and the results of these. And after that, I'll come across and produce the conclusion to that. So, introduction, what is prostate cancer? Most people in here will kind of know what prostate cancer is. But prostate cancer, amazingly, is cancer that occurs in the prostate. And why is that important is because it's the most common cancer in men, so it's important for me and Ian especially here, and whoever else, the guys are listening. And it's a major cause of deaths. With the UK, there's up to 47,500 cases, 47,700 cases a year, and 130 are diagnosed daily. So how do you know if you have it and how it's diagnosed? So as you can see, just a quick down here, and that's kind of showing the caseload here, and on the left hand side it's kind of showing where the prostate is. And just to kind of quickly mention, in the diagram you can see the prostate is right beside the bladder, and this is going to be covered later on why this is important for the project, for the anatomy. So diagnosing prostate cancer, so what's done to do that? There's several tests, as you can see from up there. For example, there we go, get like a PSA test, which is a blood test to measure your PSA levels, and a digital rectal exam, which is very unpleasant. I've given a diagram up there if anyone wants to see that, but it's more than enough. I'm not going to cover that in too much detail. But the other two kind of main tests that we'd perform at a GP practice, and that would be to see whether they think there's a potential problem and whether it's worth diagnosis. The other thing is, also, for example, you might ask why there's no screening test for PSA, for example, of prostate cancer, and the reason for this is the results are too inaccurate to make it worthwhile, so you're more likely to diagnose cancers that are really not being treated, and it's going to produce more harm for the patient than it would be if you kind of just left it alone, basically. So that's the reason they don't have a PSA prostate cancer screening program. So if the GP's decided that, they'll send the patient to get like an MRI, where they'll get a prostate biopsy, and the ones are doing now the fusion MRIs, so we get them sent from, for example, in our lab in Cross House. And the reason they do that is to combine the MRI with the prostate biopsy, and that's to make it more accurate when they're trying to get the cores. So, for example, when we get all the prostate cores, they use that to get the areas, and that's the reason why it's so important when we're doing our prostates, to make sure we align the cores with the foam, so you know which areas they've come from, and when they diagnose it, that means they can treat that specific area of the prostate rather than the prostate in general. And the next stage after that, it comes to the lab, we do an H&E, and the pathologist will also cover like the describing, processing, embedding, the fixation steps, and then finally we do the microtomy before it gets to the stage where we H&E stain it, and it would be sent to the pathologist, who would then Gleason score it. And the Gleason scoring, I'll cover that in more detail, but that's basically to determine how severe the cancer is based on the Gleason score, which I will cover later on. And then if there's any issues with deciding whether it's prostate cancer, we can also do an IHC, which I'll cover in a bit more detail later on as well. So as I said, the first 2 tests are done in the GP practice to determine if there's any further treatment needed. And the H&E Gleason done in the lab after the processing. And the IHC is PIN4, which covers prostate intraepithelial neoplasia, and that's covered like 3 different antibodies of CK, HMW, P63, and also Amoca, which are kind of a dual cocktail, and that assists the pathologist for the Gleason scoring and determining if it's cancer or benign hyperplasia. And also PSA and PSAP, which are the ones I'm going to focus on in the project, and that's for used for more tricky and metastatic cancer cases. And how it's done, it involves several different groups all working together, so they all work as a team using the GP practices, urology department, MRI, the excellent laboratory staff that are all working here, and of course our pathologist as well. And now there's going to be a newer antibody, NKX 3.1, which is the main focus of my project. kind of aid diagnosis, which is what I was looking at to see if it could. So what is NKX 3.1, you're probably wondering, and that's a gene that was found in prostate cells, and it was discovered in 1997. I didn't put that up there, I just know that off by heart now because I've done so much work in the MSc. And it's basically what they discovered, that it's an important tumour suppressor gene. Now you might think that's a bit weird. Why would you use a tumour suppressor gene to help diagnose tumours? And the reason for that is, if you see that second diagram down here, this normal NKX has 2 copies that are required, so there's 2 NKXs on a gene. And what they think happens is, if you lose one copy of the NKX, because NKX is supposed to suppress excessive growth, so you lose a copy, then the growth goes all over the place and it becomes uncontrollable. And the reason they don't think you lose 2 of them, which is very important for this project, is you basically seem to just die, or you never have a prostate or anything like that. So we'll cover that in a bit more detail later on. So the NKX is found in the luminal cells, which are up here. Can't really see it as well as you can in ICC, but that's part of the reason we did ICC. But the luminal cells spot the NKX will be staining up when you do the immunocytochemistry. And basically it works together with the androgen levels, so high androgen levels, the NKX goes up more and it basically suppresses it. Whereas if you only have one copy, the androgen levels just go out the roof and everything just explodes and starts growing all over the place. And why this is important, it's also a nuclear stain marker rather than a cytoplasmic one like current antibodies. We prefer nuclear staining in IHC, like Carol knows, who's here. And why this is important, specific to the prostate, so it's a marker you can use for prostate specific tumours, so anything that's prostate or prostate related will contain NKX 3.1. And the current antibodies that we use, PSA and PSAP, not that long, are not always specific in diagnostics. So I've had several cases that I discovered when I was doing my project where they thought it was a prostate cancer. The PSA and PSAP were very weak or negative in cases, so they had to try and diagnose it elsewhere, or it delayed the diagnosis as a result. So they were looking to see if there was a new antibody you could use, and looked to see if NKX 3.1 could be used or could potentially replace any current antibodies. And how this was done, involved the use of digital imaging and visual checking. So now you'll be asking yourself, what is digital imaging? And digital imaging, and we won't go into a huge amount of detail, but basically digital imaging was digitisation of video and electronic image capture during the optical microscope side. I did plenty of that here, it took hundreds and hundreds of images, so I've got more than enough experience of doing that. But it was quite effective. The software I used was MSJ, and this was software being previously validated in several research papers, and I still had to check it myself to make sure it worked. The universities were quite happy. I've used it, and it's been used for several IHC previously as well. And it was useful imaging software as it was able to score the staining strength. So you can see that diagram down here, that's how we used the scoring system. So this was the highest scoring, this was the kind of lower scoring down here. This one was quite poorly staining, but it's still there, and this was like negative staining, or very, very little at all. And that's how I was able to spot the staining patterns when I was doing it. And the reason I used the digital imaging rather than just doing visual checks, it was to allow a second, more statistical analysis, so you could basically say not just it looks a bit weaker, it's a bit stronger, you can say this is how much weaker and this how much stronger it was. So that's why I was doing that. And also removed any potential bias, so for example I could just say, I want this to be very, very strong. Nah, I don't like you, you failed suddenly and you're now NKX. So I couldn't do that, so that was to remove any potential bias from myself and from Roddy, who assisted me in the project as well. And how it was validated, I used visual checks, so there was, for example, I used slides from the Human Protein Atlas where they had certain slides that had been scored using that system, and they kind of cross-matched, and then also kind of scored the ones myself and Roddy checked them as well against the system to see if it matched up, and happily it did, so we were able to then validate it. And also, we used the same slides later on, which I'll discuss when I'm covering the PSA and PSAP comparison part. And the experimental design and the 5 aims, so I'm going to now cover that. So what were my aims? So the 5 aims are listed here. So the first aim is basically, I won't go through the whole detail because you can kind of read that, but basically the first aim was basically to show that the NKX staining was basically acceptable, so it could use the NKX to say this is a metastatic prostate cancer. The second aim was to show that the NKX and compare it with the PSA and PSAP, which were the 2 current antibodies we were using, and to show this was going to be more effective. And then the third aim was then to see whether NKX3.1 could be used to differentiate between bladder cancers and prostate cancers. And you're probably kind of wondering, remember earlier on I was saying how the prostate was right beside the bladder, so a lot of kind of tumours that metastasise from the prostate will go to the bladder, and vice versa, bladder would go to the tumour, to the prostate, and the treatments for them are very, very different. So if you get, for example, prostate cancer, you would get androgen therapy, whereas if it's bladder cancer, it would be chemotherapy for the treatment. So it's very important to differentiate between the two, as it's two totally different treatments you would be getting. And the fourth aim is just to investigate if NKX3.1 was correlated with the Gleason scores, so whether there was any relationship with higher NKX positivity with higher Gleason scores, for example, or vice versa. And just the final aim was just to see if there was any analysis if age affected the NKX staining patterns at all. So the 5 aims, I now carried it out, and the project began testing for that. So now what happened? I liked the project for a start, so that was a good start. So the first aim, so there we go, so this was to see whether the NKX was working or not, and you can see from the scoring here, we did 31 cases here. So remember I was saying about the scoring system, so the 4, 3, 2, 1, so 4 was scored as the highest staining, 3 was second highest, 2 was the kind of okay staining but not wishy-washy as Carol would say in ICC, and 1 was just negative, so there was no staining. So happily, out of the cases we tested, these were cases that had been pre-validated as prostate cancers, so we knew these were metastatic prostate cancers, and all of them showed staining, which we're quite happy about. And out of the 31 cases there, only 2 of them kind of showed the kind of wishy-washy staining, but we're still able to diagnose it as prostate cancer, so that was very happy about that, and that meant the NKX was now suitable to put into use for the department, so it benefited us with that. Yeah, somebody. That's mad. Just 1 second. There we go. There we go. So now on to our second aim here. And the second aim is now to compare. So, right, we have NKX1. It works. It does what it says it does. Is it better than the other 2? And again, we used the digital imaging and also comparison with the pathologist and myself. And basically the same cases were tested, so I had these 31 cases we used previously, we then tested them with PSA and PSAP just to see, and the results, as you can see, were quite conclusive. As you can see, the strongest staining was quite considerably higher, and that's the cellular positivity, so the majority of the cells we expected to come up with NKX1 came up with NKX1, whereas the staining for PSA and PSAP were just wimpy and useless and didn't really come up at all very well. And you can see even the staining, because these 2 were prostate markers, they still came up positive in the majority of the cases, but as you can see from here, there was actually several cases that came up that were negative for PSA and for PSAP, whereas they should have been positive. And overall you can see the staining strength was considerably stronger for NKX than it was for PSA and PSAP. And that helped us validate for that one, so I was quite happy at that. So now on to the third aim. And the third aim was basically to assess, so now we knew that we compared the NKX with PSA and PSAP, and we'd shown that NKX could diagnose prostate and metastatic cancers. So now it was just to see, could you do it, will it differentiate between bladder cancers and between prostate cancers? And you can see the NKX from the results there. This is the one we actually were quite pleased when it was negative, so we did 20 urothelial carcinomas. We didn't do more because we didn't want to waste the amount of antibody. After doing the first 20 it was all negative, but we were quite happy that any more we'd just be wasting antibody, so they were all negative that we tested. So that kind of showed the reason why that was so important, as you can see from that H&E slide there. Differentiating between the bladder cancers and prostate cancers just using an H&E is very difficult, and as I said earlier on, making a mistake between the 2 could lead to a patient getting totally different treatments, so it's very important to make sure you know the right cancer and give them the right treatment. So the results showed that NKX could now be used to differentiate between the 2. So now on to the fourth aim, and the fourth aim was now to investigate if NKX 3.1 could correlate with Gleason scores. So again, we used lots of different kind of prostate cancers, and this was the stage that we used the slide analysis, and also we did Gleason scoring. So Roddy did some of the prostate Gleason scores, and then he got me to do them and assessed whether I was able to do it. So since I'm not a medic, I managed to get most of them right, but there's a couple I didn't get right, but Since I've not been to medical school, I was quite pleased that actually I was able to do that, so I thought that was quite good. And basically the results here, now this wasn't quite as strong as previously, but as you can see from this diagram, the regression line, so that was the NKX scoring from 1, 2, 3, 4. The reason there's nothing at 1 is because there was no NKX that came up negative for the prostates, so that's why there's nothing there. And the Gleason scoring, so remember I was saying about the Gleason scores earlier on, the majority of us kind of know what Gleason scores are, but it's basically to show the higher the Gleason score is, the worse the cancer is going to be for the patient. So you can see that diagram there, so these are nice cells, and as you go down the Gleason scoring, the cells they lose their shape, their structure and their function until it becomes just absolute rubbish. It's just all over the place. And basically this was showing that the weird result was NKX. Oh, that's here as well, that's good timing. And it basically was showing that it wasn't a strong correlation, but we did show that the NKX scoring was actually the weaker the higher the Gleason score. And the reason we think this was potentially the result, this isn't a definite, but we think it was maybe due to the fact that, remember I was saying earlier on, when you have 2 NKX copies, you lose a copy and that's when the cancer starts appearing. So we're thinking potentially it was due to the fact the worse the Gleason cases would have more of this kind of mutant NKX3 so they would be showing weaker NKX compared to like a normal case, so that's potentially why that result was coming out. I find it quite interesting. It could potentially help the pathologists if, say for example, they were struggling with the Gleason score, they could maybe use the immunostaining to kind of assist them with that. And now, let's see, second here. Just 1 second here, and our final aim here was analysis of any correlation between NKX 3.1 and the age of the patients. So this again involved digital imaging software used and a slide analysis by myself and the pathologist Roddy Campbell at the same time. And the patient ages were analysed and made a comparison with the NKX3 intensity. And what you can see from kind of the diagram, this was not a very strong correlation, and we think it's because the patient ages when they were younger, there was less of them, but the cases were more extreme, so that's potentially why that didn't have great correlation. Later on, we did kind of see a small correlation with weaker ages going from 60 to 90, but I think due to the sample size, we couldn't say that was a definite result, so we had to go along. That was not as conclusive as the other 4 aims, but 4 out of the 5 aims kind of showing good results, or pretty clear results we're quite happy with. And the next one, we're now going to go to the conclusions, so hopefully everyone's enjoyed it and it's not been too long for you. So the conclusions, what was the point in the project and why I did it? So as I was going through, using all the software and the slide analysis, and basically you could see that NKX was seen to be more effective for diagnosis of prostate cancers for metastatic cases, so it was able to be put into use. And it was seen to be more effective than PSA or PSAP when it was being tested. And also the NKX was seen to be effective to discriminate between bladder and non-bladder cancers. And also the NKX showed the stain intensity, just kind of covering what I was saying earlier. There was a weak kind of link with the Gleason, so it did go down as the Gleason score went higher, so it was able to show a link with that. And NKX showed that age was only weakly correlated with it. So that's all very well good. You might ask, you say, what's the point of doing all this project? What's the benefit of the lab in any way, shape or form? Well, since the project, the lab is now using NKX 3.1 has now been put into routine use, and it's been helpful for diagnosing. There's been quite a few cases I've come across recently. Like there was one, Ruben was doing a case and it discovered that it was a cell block, and he tested it for PSA and it came up negative, but then he tested it for the NKX 3.1 and it came up positive, and he was able to get a prostate metastatic diagnosis out of that as a result. And also, for example, PSAP is now no longer in use, so Carol especially will be happy with that because nobody liked PSAP. It was poor staining, and we've got rid of an antibody that was not as good and replaced it with an antibody that's far more effective for diagnosing patients. And also, for the bladder cancers, I discovered Monica's been using it for an unusual use. Because one point, Linda was actually asking me about NKX, why are we getting this tumour that's not staining with NKX in the prostate, what's going on? I went to speak to her and discovered she was using it to determine whether bladder cancers have metastasised into the prostate. So if the tumour didn't stain out with NKX, they could say, oh, this might be a bladder tumour rather than a prostate tumour, for example. So overall, it's led to more effective diagnosis and a better treatment and patient care, and ultimately it's benefited the users of the department and the lab and ICC because we get nice antibodies now staining. Okay, so thank you for listening, and anyone any questions to ask me at all?
Is NKX widely used in other departments and other hospitals?
No, I've not really heard of a huge amount. I think there's some other departments. I think Roddy maybe knows more about this than I do, but
I think it is. I don't know. I'm guessing, but when I've gone to meetings and things, it's certainly mentioned. And it's the sort of thing when I do the urology QA, they'll often give you NKX sustain. Certainly other. It's not exotic, put it that way.
So is that the
I
new
don't
gold
know if you use it in
standard
plasma.
then?
yeah, it seems to be, well, compared to like for PSA and PSAP, all the kind of research papers I was going through for it, for example, seemed to be suggesting that they thought NKX was more effective staining. So, and it seems to be, well, that was the way our department's gone. So I think overall, based on the research, I think there's obviously kind of changing. Again, Roddy kind of knows more about this than I do at the moment, but from what I was able to learn, it seemed to be that NKX seemed to be getting more used, and PSAP.
I think so. Anecdotally, you might know the literature better than me, to be honest, Alan. But that's my kind of anecdotal impression.
Yeah.
Is the NKX is being more. I mean, again, as a nice study, because often we'll put an antibody into use and we won't do the depth of analysis that you've done, and we'll just say, is this better? Probably, and we'll just start using it. Whereas this one, we think it's better, and we've proven it's better as well.
Yeah.
So we can say quite definitely, not only do we think this is probably better from what the literature says, we've done our own study and we've proven it's better.
Yeah.
And you could have predicted that, because PSA was rubbish. PSA, I mean, we're still using it, but it's still very weakly positive in things that you're convinced are prostate cancer, and that's the problem. It's a sensitivity problem it has. It's weakly positive in things that are almost certainly prostate cancer, in the way that NKX is more strongly positive.
Yeah, because I saw, when I was doing the project as well, there was a few, like, even there was several cases that were just completely negative for the PSA, and there was ones that were negative for PSA and PSAP, in fact. Like, I posted it out there, actually, the one showed a very small, I think it was one of the kind of biopsies, but it showed as a result NKX was extremely positive in that, and the other two were just completely negative duds. It was zilch. And they even put that in the report, saying they were struggling to diagnose it, but they're just assuming it's a prostate cancer. But thanks to the fact that we used the NKX, it could show, yeah, if we had the NKX, it would have been far easier to diagnose that case than it would have been without it.
I have a good question, Alan. Is it nicer technically to use than PSA or PSAP?
Well, I would say so. I might be slightly biased, obviously, but yes, the nuclear stain
It's
is
nicer to
nicer.
look at, because it's a nuclear stain, it's much easier to look
nuclear stains
at.
are good, aren't they? Yeah, there's something about them. They just seem to be more reliable, like your TTF1s, and
Yeah.
you don't have too many, actually.
CDX2.
CDX2.
That's amazing.
They almost kind of wishy-washy when they're cytoplasmic as well, staining, so that seems to be a big
Look a bit
difference.
grubby, so you're not
Yeah,
sure
you're not
whether it's
sure if
actually
it's real.
positive or not.
Yeah, no, I think there's lots to recommend it, and it genuinely is useful. And it does matter if it's a prostate cancer or something else, because prostate cancer's androgen sensitive, so you can treat prostate cancer with hormones in a way that you can't for most other tumours.
Yeah.
So, the real scenario that is really, really important is where you get a MET and you don't know what kind of MET is, you need someone that's not known to have prostate cancer. And if you can say that this lump in their groin or this lump in their abdominal wall is prostate cancer, then you can give them hormones and give them very effective treatment. So it's a really useful and, for patient management, really helpful marker.
So your project, Alan, were all was it all done in biopsies? Because I'm just thinking,
Actually, it was
would
the other,
fixation come into play?
it was the other way around, actually. The first lot I did, like, for NKX was quite a lot of them were in metastatic cases. So, for example, a lot of prostates go metastasised to the femurs, which is a bit of a nuisance for cutting, actually, but a lot of them are quite big. So there was femoral heads, for example, and there was larger bladder cases, larger kind of prostate.
Right,
Yeah, so it was a kind of a wide mixture. So there was a mixture of biopsies and non-biopsies, and I didn't see any big difference between the staining between the larger and the smaller ones. Probably quite a good thing to research in the future, actually, but I did keep an eye out for
what's
that.
wrong with PSA as well, like to standardise what we do for the best scores for the ER scoring, like
Yeah.
PSA is just so sensitive to the fixation machines that
I think there's something, you might be dead right, but there's also something to do with the tumours themselves, because there's certainly, you measure serum PSA in your blood, and sometimes people have really horrible prostate cancer and their serum PSA is really low. So I think sometimes the really, really bad cancers actually forget how to make PSA.
Yeah, I
But
just saw
they're
that.
probably still NKX positive.
Yeah, something with some of the literature they were investigating. Some of them have theorised that some of the cases of they've become metastatic, have mutated and have lost their PSA. So when the mutated cells have gone, metastatic cancer, but they don't have any PSA or production, or there's very, very little if any. But they've still got NKX because they can't seem to survive without NKX. So that's potentially the reason. They haven't confirmed it, but that was one of the things they theorised for that.
Alan, do you think you'll follow up on your correlation with age now that we've put NKX3.1 actually into use now? Do you think you might have a wee look back and see if you can get a better correlation with age with a wider sample?
Yeah, that'd be nice. I think it's because the sample use will
No.
probably be very difficult to do. I think the samples we used were kind of over 5 years, so it was very, very difficult to get a lot of prostate cancers. So it'd be nice to do that, but it's, as I was saying, it's kind of skewed.
that sort of information.
The more you use it,
The more information there is.
Yeah, the more
Yes,
information you get.
that'd be great.
Yeah, easier.
It would be
It
quite
might in
good.
fact prove the same thing, that
I
there
know.
isn't a great correlation,
I
but
know,
if you get a bigger
bigger sample.
Bigger pool.
Yeah, because I think like the cases, there was only about 2 or 3 cases, like 40 or 50, but I think they were diagnosed because they'd become really, really severe, so I think that kind of skewed the data for ages a wee bit as well.
That would be a problem, because it's not a disease of young men.
I know, and if you're young, it's going to be really bad.
You know, people in their 40s and 50s, you'll have heart
I
disease,
know,
even over 5-6 years old and stuff.
I know, so I think that kind of messed up.
Worthwhile getting some guinea pigs in, you know.
Guinea pigs well. Potentially, yes.
I'm not getting a trust biopsy just for your research.
No. I know, especially after our conference in Preston, I was actually saying you've got a 10% risk of sepsis as well for getting when you get a prostate core taken.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, no, you don't.
So no, even if I had any,
No
not a
one's
digital
getting
rectal
prostate
exam
cancer.
either, so no.
It was funny because I went home last night and I was just talking to Colin. I said I was quite a number of truck biopsies and I've not seen them for a wee while. You know, and he's saying, what's that? So I explained to him and he's like, oh, to God, to put you to sleep to do that. And I went, oh no, you have to be awake. You have to be. So I then went online and there's a nice wee video of, you know, how it's done. How it's done.
Ugh.
How to
Tart.
get a tart.
The worst, I mean, prostate biopsies, the worst has got to be the template biopsies that they do in Glasgow. I think one the professor does them. So if for whatever reason a trust biopsy isn't suitable or has been negative, sometimes do a template biopsy. And what they do is they've got a plate about that size, and it's got, I don't know, 50 odd little holes in them, and they do put you to sleep for this one. But basically
They
they
do
just
for
put
tart as well.
they put 50 needles through that in your perineum, so the space between your scrotum and your anus, and just fire into your prostate that way.
I'm glad I don't have one. Thanks.
I have to admit, that was just so pleasant.
I'm glad I'm lacking that part.
Just
Childbirth. Yeah.
just a thought to take with you as you
Yes.
go.
Oh, thanks,
Oh,
Granny.
Yes.
Yes.
They use that for some people have had operations like AP resection. We don't have any in this anymore, so there's no, they can't get a truss. So sometimes those people get that, or there's other reasons.
Yeah, on that.
I don't fancy
That was really good.
Yes, thank you very much, Alan.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
missed some of that.
Can I ask why you decided to do that project? Is there
I
was
think
there topics that you had to choose from, or?
I think it was just kind of, I wanted to kind of do like immunocytochemistry, and then I was having a look into the antibodies, and then Roddy suggested this potential new antibody you could bring in and see if it was more effective and everything. So I just wanted to kind of build onto it, and then it's quite interesting.
Very
Because I'm a
good.
guy, it kind of helps a wee bit with that too.
And now they've just become the most common cancer in males.
Yeah.
Used to be lung.
Well done.
Yeah,
Very
well done.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you. That was interesting.